it's go time, as it is with the Red Sox, as it is with a number of other teams. These teams in particular, in my view, should be at a point where they are spending again. Welcome everyone to the Monday edition of Fair Territory, and welcome as well to the baseball offseason. It's always fun, always lively, always interesting, and we're going to start off on this Monday by talking about my top 5 storylines. Now, these are not the only 5 storylines we're going to discuss this offseason. These are the stories that, in my view, will probably attract the most attention. Could be wrong about that. There are always things that happen in the offseason that you don't see coming. But these are 5 things that a lot of fans will be thinking about, talking about as we go forward into November, December, January, February, and however long this sucker lasts. As you might recall, sometimes things go into March, even into April. So here we go, top 5 storylines. We're going to go in reverse order. So the biggest storyline, which you guys all probably can guess, is going to be last. All right, number 5 on my top 5 storylines list, the Scott Boras Revenge Tour. Now, he wouldn't like me calling it that because, of course, he doesn't view his job as revenge. He views his job as representing the best interests of his clients. At the same time, we all know Boras had a challenging offseason last year, a difficult offseason by his standards. Remember the Boras 4, Jordan Montgomery, Blake Snell, Matt Chapman, Cody Bellinger. None of them got the contracts that we really envisioned, though, of course, Chapman has come out of it just fine. He signed a new 6-year, $151 million deal with the Giants just recently. Didn't even need to go to free agency. Cody Bellinger as well opted in on his second year of a 3-year, $90 million deal. That's a $30 million guarantee. He's going to be okay, too. All of these guys are going to be okay. But it wasn't Boras' best offseason. This offseason, again, reminds me of 2019-20, when Boras, coming off what for him was not the best offseason, went absolutely nuts with Cole, Rendon, Strasburg, and had an amazing billion-dollar offseason. Let's look at his list of free agents this coming winter, because it's quite a group. Juan Soto, Corbin Burns, Blake Snell, Alex Bregman, Pete Alonso, Sean Manaea, Jurickson Profar, Yusei Kikuchi, and Ha-Seong Kim. That is not a complete list, but those are his top players. Kim, of course, coming off the injury, he's a little bit problematic, but all of the others, for the most part, are in great shape as they approach free agency. So I expect Scott Boras to be in the headlines. I expect him to have a monster offseason, and we will see where it all goes. All right, number 4 on my storylines list, a guy that maybe some casual fans have not heard of, but he's going to get a lot of attention if, and if is a big word here, his Japanese team, the Chiba Lotte Marines, post him for bidding by major league clubs this offseason. His name is Roki Sasaki. He is just 23 years old. He is considered the best young pitcher on the planet, certainly in Japan. And he's a guy that, should he come, will not be a classic unrestricted free agent. He'll be what Ohtani was in 2017-18. He will command only a certain amount of money because he is under the age of 25. If you remember, Ohtani signed with the Angels for $2.315 million. That was it. Remember, international bonuses are capped. Teams can only go so far. So in theory, from a financial perspective, every team would have a chance to land Sasaki. The problem is, the suspicion is, among many in the industry, almost everyone in the industry, that if this guy is posted, if Roki Sasaki becomes available, the Los Angeles Dodgers will be the heavy favorites to sign him. And can you imagine what that team would mean in Japan then? It already has Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. To get Sasaki as well, there would be even more so Japan's team. Sasaki, number 4 on my list. Number 3, this is a big one and it affects a lot of clubs. The effect of the media rights landscape on spending this offseason. We saw it had a significant impact last offseason because teams are losing their cable deals that they once had and having to go to streaming models, often run by MLB. A lot of teams are in different situations here. I'm not going to go into great detail about each particular club. Evan Drellick has a great story in The Athletic today, kind of breaking down the whole thing. And what Evan says is that at least 1/3 of the clubs so far have taken a reduction in their rights fees. And by opening day, that list could grow to about half or more than half even. And this is important to remember. Local revenue is not the entirety of a club's revenue. According to the Major League Baseball Players Association, the union, as reported by Evan, local TV revenues generally comprise between 12 and 32% of a team's total revenue, and the average is around 21%. So if you take a hit in your local revenue, one, you can make it up elsewhere, perhaps, or more to the point, you're not taking a total hit overall. You're taking a percentage of revenues and you're not having it anymore. Listen, there's no denying that it's an impact, but there's also no denying, as I've written many times before, teams look for any excuse they can not to spend money. And it's going to be really interesting to see which teams kind of grasp that excuse this offseason. Now, some teams obviously will take a greater hit than others, and some teams will have more of a reason not to spend, but this is obviously a huge, huge thing that we're going to be watching this offseason for all of the clubs that are affected or could be affected. Number 2 on my list of storylines, Pete Alonso. Now, Alonso, of course, is of great interest to Mets fans in particular, but his free agency is going to be really interesting in a global perspective as well. Alonso is a first baseman. He's a guy entering his early to mid-30s. In recent years, the numbers we've seen for those players are not what we've seen in the past, in, say, the early 2010s. Freddie Freeman, $162 million, much of it deferred. Matt Olson, $180 million. Paul Goldschmidt, $130 million. You go back to Prince Fielder, to Joey Votto, Albert Pujols. Those were deals over $200 million. And I am sure Alonso's agent, Scott Boras, is going to want to take the market back to what it was. The question is, will anybody be willing to pay Alonso along those lines? He is one of the rare power hitters in the game. He is also a guy who is not terribly athletic. He tries really hard at first base, but he is limited there. He's a guy that, yes, will definitely help any number of teams in a sport starved for power. I just don't know that any team is going to want to pay him more than Freddie Freeman. We just saw what Freddie Freeman did in the World Series. We've seen what he has done in his career. He's a Hall of Famer. Freddie Freeman, again, his deal with the Dodgers a couple of years ago now, 6 years, $162 million. All right, number 1 on the list, you guys know what this is. The number 1 storyline of the offseason, without question, is Juan Soto's free agency and, kind of in a subtext here, the effect it might have, whether he stays or not, on the New York Yankees. The numbers for Soto, a lot of people are guessing. We're all just guessing right now. We don't know exactly where this is going to go. Will it go well beyond $500 million? Will it go beyond $600 million? Will it approach or even exceed $700 million? People say there's no way. He can't be paid more than Ohtani in total value. And I see the argument. Ohtani, of course, can pitch and hit. But Soto is 26, and a 26-year-old free agent in our sport is a really rare thing. So we know the Yankees will be in. We know the Mets likely will be in as well. Other teams, I would imagine, would enter the mix. I guess the question becomes what Scott Boras' goal and what Juan Soto's goal will be as far as the contract is concerned. Let's face it, he's going for the most money. He waited all this time to be a free agent to make the best deal possible. That's what Soto wants, okay? So this idea that, well, maybe he loved being a Yankee. No. It doesn't matter whether he loved being a Yankee. If the Mets pay him more, he's going to the Mets. The question is, will he try to top Ohtani's average annual value when factored in with the deferrals, which was about $46, $47 million? Will he try for a $15 million average annual value? And will he try for, along with, or perhaps instead of, that idea, a total value in excess or at least approaching Ohtani's $700 million, which of course includes $680 million in deferrals? I don't know how this is going to play out. No one does, no matter what you might be reading in the next few days. But Juan Soto, without question, is the number 1 story here. If Soto stays, you're going to see the Yankees incorporate younger players like Jason Domingos. If he leaves, they could do other things in free agency. Maybe Alex Bregman, move Jazz Chisholm Jr. to second. There are all kinds of ways that they could go. Either way, we'll all be watching this. We'll all be talking about it. We'll all be seeing if Juan Soto jumps on a plane to Toronto. No, he's not jumping on a plane to Toronto, I don't think. But it's going to be the number one story, no question about that. So there you have it. Those are my top 5 storylines. Again, don't come at me. I know there are other stories we'll be watching. We'll get to them too. Time now for the Inside Dish, the part of the show where I talk about a story I've written, something I might be up to, some kind of trend in the game. And on this Monday, as I prepare to leave for the GM meetings in San Antonio later today, I want to talk about a mystery to most fans. What happens at the GM meetings? Now, generally speaking, not a lot happens. Basically, the GMs and agents gather. The GMs meet about different things regarding the game, rules changes perhaps, different ideas. And of course, they spend time talking to each other about potential trades. They meet with agents as well for free agents. They do all of these kinds of things. And you might ask, well, what do you guys as reporters do? Good question. What we do as reporters is what we do a lot as reporters covering baseball. We stand around waiting for people to talk to. Now, generally speaking, at these meetings, what happens is groundwork is laid. Groundwork for future free agent signings, groundwork for future trades. You'll often hear once a signing is made or once a trade is completed, hey, we started talking about this at the GM meetings. We kind of kicked some ideas around and it grew from there. That is really what the GM meetings are for. You will see, though, on occasion, an occasional trade. And I will give you a couple right now. Now, some of these trades happen right after the GM meetings and not at the meetings themselves, but they effectively were accomplished at the meetings. 2015, Craig Kimbrell from the Padres to the Red Sox. You remember that deal? Manny Margot went back to the Padres. 2008, I remember this one well. I was actually driving away from the meetings. They were in the San Diego area. I was headed to the airport when Matt Holliday was traded from the Rockies to the Oakland A's for a package that included Carlos Gonzalez and Houston Street. That was a big deal. 2007, the Brad Lidge trade to the Phillies, that happened there. And the one I remember perhaps best involved my friend from foul territory, none other than AJ Pierzynski. This goes back to 2003. The meetings were at the Biltmore Hotel in Arizona. Don't ask me why I remember that, but they were there in Phoenix. And AJ, in an infamous trade as it turned out, was traded to the Giants from the Twins for Buff Bonser, Francisco Liriano, and Joe Nathan. AJ, of course, has talked many times about how it didn't all work out and the Giants fans didn't particularly like him, the way that trade evolved. But that trade was a very memorable one because at the time it wasn't considered necessarily a horrible trade for the Giants. And I remember it as well. I'm going to throw somebody under the bus slightly here because I remember trying to confirm that deal. Yes, this is 2003, 21 years ago, and I remember it. I remember trying to confirm that deal with the Giants assistant GM at the time, Ned Colletti. Ned went on to become, of course, the Dodgers GM for many years. And for some reason, when I called Ned, this was before texting, or at least wasn't texting much, Ned picked up the phone and he sort of snapped at me. And I got really upset. I got really mad about this. Generally speaking, people yell at me. I just kind of take it. That's the nature of the business. You get yelled at sometimes. But this one stuck with me. I never actually brought it up with Ned. I think what was going on was my grandfather was sick at the time, and I was like, my grandfather's sick, and this guy's yelling at me about a stupid trade? It doesn't wash. But anyway, that happened at the GM meetings, literally at the meetings. So what you will hear about the next few days, most likely, are a lot of ideas, maybe some rumors, maybe some things that are taking place. We get, as reporters, a couple of availabilities with the GMs, formal availabilities, where they will basically appear in different parts of a ballroom. We'll take a table, each of them, and we can go from table to table, or whatever the case might be, and talk to them. Maybe it's less formal than that with no table, but they'll be in one room. And we can bounce around, ask different GMs, different questions, different heads of baseball operations, whatever their titles might be. There will be one session for the American League group, and there will be one session for the National League group. They'll take place, I believe, on different days. You can ask questions that way and often accomplish things along those lines. And of course, agents are around and you can ask them about their clients and what they foresee for them in free agency. But generally, the GM meetings compared to the winter meetings are much more low-key. It's not as intense a media environment. It's not as intense a trading or free agent signing environment. It's just the prelude to that all. And yes, some things might get accomplished this week. Certainly some options you'll see exercised and not. The deadline for that is approaching. But from a major standpoint, from a major signing standpoint, a major trade standpoint, probably unlikely we'll see anything along those lines. But again, remember what I told you. In a few weeks from now, when you start hearing the bigger things, you'll see reported those conversations often started at the GM meetings. We'll be right back after a quick word from AJ Przinsky, Eric Kratz, and Scott Braun.
This episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. If you're looking for that fresh barbershop shave at home, introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code FOUL20 for 20% off plus free shipping.
I've had so many bad razors in my past, and you only get one face. Make it count with the latest tech in face electric shavers. I'm talking Flex Adjust technology, which makes sure the blades and pivoting head adapt to the unique contours of your face and neck to hit all the angles.
There's a travel lock so you don't hear buzzing in your bag from an accidental on-button situation. And the Chairman Pro also features an LED spotlight to help you see every detail.
Get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is smooth as a baby's butt. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code FOUL20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code FOUL20 at manscaped.com.
Time now for Grillin Ken. Let's get to your questions. First question comes from Mad King Tyler, who asks, which starting pitcher should the Red Sox heavily target this offseason? A proven ace like Corbin Burns, an underrated star like Max Fried, or take a chance on an overseas star in Roki Sasaki? Mad King Tyler, I would suggest all of the above. They should be looking at every possible option, and my friend Sean McAdam, who works for MassLive.com, had another idea in something he wrote, I believe it was over the weekend, Garrett Crochet, a trade for Garrett Crochet. The Red Sox system right now is in a really good place, so they should be looking at all options, all the ones you mentioned, and others. Snell should be an option for them. Every pitcher on the market should be something that they investigate or someone they investigate, and they cannot come up empty. They need to go now. It's time for the Red Sox to start acting like the Red Sox again. So, Mad King Tyler, if I were you, if I were any Red Sox fan and they did not come away with at least one prominent starting pitcher this offseason, I'd be pretty disappointed. Second question, this one comes from Devin Davalos, who asks, if the Yankees miss out on Soto, where would you see them pivoting? Kind of address that one. Also, which small market teams can you see having a busy offseason to try and go for it next season? We've already seen one team jump out, and it's the same team that jumped out last year, Kansas City Royals. Signed Michael Wacha to a 3-year, $51 million contract. He, of course, had the ability to opt out. That helps stabilize their rotation, right? They're going to have Wacha, Lugo, and Cole Reagans again next year. That was the heart of their team in many respects this season. The reason why they were able to rebound from 106 losses. Another team I'm looking at, and this team I've talked about before, and I'm going to talk about them all off season, the Detroit Tigers. Like the Red Sox, obviously it's a different position financially, but like the Red Sox, they should be ready to go. And whether it's at first base, some other position offensively, they need to add. They need also to supplement their bullpen, which has been really good, no question. I don't know that you can count on it again. And I would also like to see them get one more starting pitcher to pair with Tarek Skubal at the top of the rotation. The Tigers, in my view, playing in a weaker division with the nucleus of young players that they have, are in position to make a move here. Now, spending money does not always equate to advancement. We all know that. But the Tigers now, it's go time, as it is with the Red Sox, as it is with a number of other teams. But these teams in particular, in my view, should be at a point where they are spending again. All right, final question. This one comes from Victor Nicastro, who asks, why is MLB the only league that doesn't use its highest rated officials to umpire the playoffs and World Series? Every other league uses its highest rated guys. Victor, this is a question a lot of fans ask, and it became a particularly relevant question after the World Series umpires were announced, and some of the independent rating sites that you'll see on X and other forms of social media kind of declare that these guys weren't the best. Now, what we need to know, or what we all need to understand, is the rating system that those sites use and the rating system that MLB uses are two different things. MLB has its own way of rating umpires, and with regard to the playoffs, the three leading factors that go into the assignments are, yes, regular season performance, but also communication skills and situation handling. Now, you might say, okay, that's fine, but we're still not getting the best of the best. And if you watched the World Series, I would suggest, not unfairly in my estimation, that we weren't necessarily seeing the best of the best. We had some curious things going on behind the plate in particular. So this is the way MLB does it. I don't necessarily agree that it's the best way. I don't necessarily agree we're getting the best of the best. But that is the explanation I got when I asked the league to explain, hey, how are you picking these umpires? How are you selecting which umpires you're using for the World Series? I want to thank everyone for their questions. Thank everyone for watching, for listening. You know where to find us: YouTube, Apple, Spotify. We will be back at some point later in the week. Have a great week, everyone. And here we go with the off season.
BetMGM first bet $1,500 offer when you use the bonus code FOUL. Get this offer when you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or at BetMGM.com. Sign up, enter that bonus code FOUL, and deposit at least $10 into your new account. Place your first wager, receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If it does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern? There's help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Fair Territory airs each week, and we'd love for you to become part of our community. Here's another video you might enjoy. See you next time.